educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Thank you very much for tuning in today. I have a powerhouse guest for you today. She is a mother, a wife, a multifaceted businesswoman who was born and raised in India and spent the majority of her career in the male-dominated tech industry as a marketing executive in Silicon Valley. She is now a serial entrepreneur, a Forbes author, speaker, startup advisor, and a business coach. Stringco, her apparel brand, is driven by a spirited desire to empower women of all backgrounds, instilling in them the confidence to pursue their ideal life path and compete on an equitable platform. Women's empowerment and mental health are at the core of Stringco's identity, and the brand offers inclusive sizing and flattering silhouettes that complement and accentuate every body type. Stringco also initiated the It's Okay Project, an awareness, community, and digital campaign to help support anyone struggling in their everyday lives. It's Okay aims to help individuals regain the confidence and hope they need to thrive, and a lot of us need that. A lot of us need that. Hey, you know what? It is okay to be different. It's okay to be great in my skin, my personality, or whatever it is. Let's be our authentic selves. And I have someone today that's going to talk to us about that and being our authentic selves and being able to strive to be greater. I thank y'all very much for listening to That Whenever podcast. And I bring none other than Neena. Neena, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Morris. It's my absolute pleasure to be on the show. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Sure, no problem. So as I stated, in the green room, we're going to talk about beating the 9-to-5. A lot of us have yet not to dive all the way in, where we have our little twinkle toes in the water, so how can we beat that 9-to-5 grind, because a lot of us are a little too nervous to jump all the way.
Right. And this topic really holds very close to my heart because I was exactly like your audience 16 years back. I have spent majority of my career in Silicon Valley in tech, as you mentioned. And it was my dream to be an entrepreneur for as long as I can remember. So I went back, in school. I went to a fashion school, after which I did my MBA. But then after I got out of fashion school, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. But my regret is that I took such a long time to bring that passion into action. And I think, at least in my case and in majority of people's cases, there are a couple of things which hold people back from starting their own thing. So I think first and the foremost is they're afraid because they are in a job which is paying them money to be able to pay their bill, to be able to sustain their life. And they're afraid that if they let go of that, then how will they support their families? And also, one thing which I hear a lot is people don't have any experience. People don't have business experience. So they just think that, okay, maybe I'm not cut out for that. I have never been in marketing and never been in sales. I don't know the ABC of running my own business. I have been in security for the past 15 years. I have been an engineer. So all these thoughts that debilitate people, that leads to inaction, procrastination, and it becomes, and you are you're an entrepreneur yourself, so you will understand, and your listeners will too, that a lot of time passes before people realize that they didn't do what they really wanted to do in their life, and they were stuck in their 9-to-5 grind. Even if they love their job, they're just not passionate. Love their job as in, love the people, love their bosses, and there is they are okay with what they do. Over a period of time, they lose passion. They in majority of cases, as was the case with me also, I just didn't want to go to work anymore. I mean, I would get up in the morning like a robot. I would just, take shower, and I would be stuck in that traffic for 45 minutes. For people who are familiar with the Bay Area,
Mm,
I live in South Bay and my office was in Peninsula. I was working with Oracle at the time. And it was a big commute. And even if it's a short commute, even, I
mm-hmm.
mean, it doesn't really matter. All these things, they just come into existence when you don't have an inner drive to just you know, go and start your day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, I mean, it would not, the thought of my day would not motivate me to get
Mm-hmm.
up and, get ready and go to work. And also many of my colleagues, I was in a similar situation, many years back,
Mm-hmm.
that and it's a constant. The only constant in corporate is that, there are so many variables,
Right.
right? So people are always, I was always afraid, when there was that next round of layoffs, I was always afraid
Mm-hmm.
that, hey, I may lose my job. So living under constant fear, enduring office politics,
Mm-hmm.
not being able to do your best because, you feel that you're always limited by what others ask you to do or what others think of you,
Mm-hmm.
always judging your worth by, that performance review when
Right.
people, give you feedback, so to say, and what they call constructive feedback.
Mm-hmm.
We have all been there, right? So I think it's really important, to cut a long story short, and I say that because all of these things were the reasons why I finally decided that, I didn't want to one day be on my deathbed and think that, hey, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really do what I really wanted to do in my life. So
Mm-hmm.
I said that, okay, I'm giving myself, and that's how you can take that first step too. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, I don't want to be regretting all my life. So I want to take that action. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I
Mm-hmm.
gave myself a period of time that, I will work on this for a year. I'll see
Mm-hmm.
how this goes. I will figure out my action items. I will pivot along the way, but I will never doubt myself in this,
Hmm.
at least in this 1 year. And then after a year, I will sit back and I'll evaluate what my goals were, how I fared against those goals.
Mm-hmm.
Is it even working for me?
Hmm.
And even if you have not done what you really wanted to do in a year,
Mm-hmm.
at least you will know if you're on the right path, and if you would be able to first sustain yourself
Mm-hmm.
with this in the longer run, sustain your family, support your family, and second, if this is the right path for you. Is entrepreneurship really for you? So
Mm-hmm.
because, I always say that I'm, a member of Forbes Business Council, so I have once had an interview, and uh, you know i uh, I said that you really need to evaluate even before taking that jump in entrepreneurship, if entrepreneurship is really for you. Because
Mm-hmm.
even if you're the brightest, even if you have greatest skill, you have all the marketing know-how and sales, you may not be cut out to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
And
it
why
takes.
I say that,
Yeah.
all those skills can be learned, please don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
but you need to be coachable. You need to be able to, set yourself out to learn those skills.
Mm-hmm.
But if you need to understand, to be in entrepreneurship, you need to have that mindset. You need to understand that, you know failure is a part of the game,
It
and
is.
every time I fail, I need to get up, I need to pivot, and that's how I will be the greatest corporation or enterprise or business that ever lived. Because every business, not every business that, that are conglomerates now, they
Mm-hmm.
didn't have that vision for how they will be 10, 15, 20 years out.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that worked in their favor is that they failed, they got up, they
Mm-hmm.
they saw that, okay, maybe this is not the right business model, maybe there is, it's more lucrative somewhere else, maybe I'm not doing things right. They pivoted, they captured on the market opportunities, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how they did something way bigger than what they had originally envisioned they'll do.
So I have a
So,
question. I want to rewind for a moment because you
hmm,
talked about fear, and one of the
yeah.
things that we have as when it comes to fear,
Hmm.
again, so I'm gonna go back to your background. You're
Hmm.
coming from Silicon Valley,
Yeah.
The opinion of people in Silicon Valley is that, you're making a lot of money. That's the opinion, right? That's the perception, right? And
Right.
so you have these golden handcuffs, quote, right? You got the salary, you have fringe benefits, you have all these things. That's the appearance. And now I want to go and be an entrepreneur. As you stated, it takes a lot to be an entrepreneur, right? And
Mhm.
so now, how do I go from making, let's say, six figures, because
Mhm.
the salary may be five, but fringe may put you over six. So let's say you're making six figures overall, but now I need to go all the way back down to zero. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of trust that needs to have, that you need to develop and understand and whatever else. So how can I get to that point where I can overcome this fear to go from making six figures to now nothing as an entrepreneur?
Right. And that's an amazing question, and I really love the golden handcuffs, similarity that you mentioned. Absolutely. So, in Silicon Valley, you make more money than probably, some other cities,
Mm-hmm.
but there are also a lot of expenses, right? I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
always it's tough in Silicon Valley, right? Look, see the house prices and everything else,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, it's just expensive to live here. And suddenly going from, as you mentioned, six-figure salary to nothing, it's how do you do that? So I think something that has worked for me
Mm-hmm.
is, first of all, fear is a you mentioned, you started off this question with fear. Fear is a two-edged sword, right? While uh it could be debilitating,
Mm-hmm.
but it could also be very it could be facilitating as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just give you an example, and it really depends on how you are setting your goals, right? So on fear, I just want to give you a small example of when I grew up, my childhood. So as I'm an immigrant, grew up in India. We had three sisters, and I grew up in a small town. I grew up in a you know average working household, middle class. And one thing which was always inculcated in me, always taught to me from the very beginning by my dad, who is a self made man, is that you should not depend on anybody else for your livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were many, back in those days, there were many women in India who thought that, they would probably get married and, be a housewife, and did not really, take their career very seriously. But to us, it was that fear was so strong in our nerves, and all of our
Mm-hmm.
three sisters, that people who are dependent on others, they are taken advantage of. There are very many horror stories across the globe.
Mm-hmm.
So we all really wanted to, we knew that we had to be independent, we had to provide for our families.
Mm-hmm.
But so basically the goal was to be independent and to be able to provide for the family. So when I did not, I was, my goal was in the beginning to become a doctor, and that's a completely different, story on why and how, because, societal norms, and then, people think it's a safe career and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave, I took the exam three times and I failed.
Wow.
I would have just, left and thought that, okay, this is not for me.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of that, I immediately got up and I thought, okay, what is the next thing? How
Mm-hmm.
do I pivot? What do I do? So then, I did my undergrad with chemistry, and then I went on to do my MBA, because the goal was not to become a doctor. The
Mm-hmm.
goal was higher. There was a higher
Mm-hmm.
purpose, higher goal, is to be able to provide for your family. So which is what kept me going until I was able to do that. So I'll actually I'll use the same analogy to here. You need to figure out what your goal is. And if your goal is to work for someone for your entire life, is to be in that grind, or if you find it comforting, if you find that pace good. If I mean, so that's great for you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are not happy, if you are, thinking that, okay, I could do better, I
Mm-hmm.
could do better than the people who are telling me who am I and what I'm worth,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you are, looking in terms of finances, yes, going from six figures to zero is intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
But if your goal is to be able to make much more in years to come,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you have figured out what your skills, where your skills lie, we always talk about, yes, you can do wonders, you can move mountains, but we need to figure out, first of all, we need to be very true to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We need to do a deep dive introspection on who we uniquely are, what do we bring to the table, where our skills lie, right? And how can we translate that to solving people's pain point? So you
Mm-hmm.
need to have that very clear in your head, which will help you just have confidence in yourself. And then, of course, you need to plan things, you need to figure out how will you finance yourself in the first 6 months, in the
Mm-hmm.
first 12 months, how much revenue will you bring in, how will you pay your bills. So that's all, we still need to do all that, and we
Right.
need to have all the things in place. But then when I talk about the courage to take the first step,
Mm-hmm.
is that, do you have a bigger overarching goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do you have, do you have the mindset
Mm-hmm.
to fail and to get up, to go from there, and to really be able to reach your bigger goal? And third is, you will reach your bigger goal if you have all these, if you know your strengths,
Mm-hmm.
if you know what your unique value proposition is what you bring to the table, because these are your strengths, which you are evaluating only, in the comfort of your own home, in your own body, you're introspecting.
Mm-hmm.
So you exactly know what you're capable of, and then it's just a matter of taking the first step.
So, Nina, here's a question though.
Hmm.
Maybe I know what I want to do. Maybe I understand that there is a higher calling. But there's something I believe that you said that kind of holds us back sometimes, which is culture. Our
Yeah.
community can hold us back because of the expectation of the culture or the community. Because, hey, you know what? We understand that in order for us to do something greater, better, or whatever else, yes, that's an individual thing. But what happens when the community is expecting for us to do something that's going to benefit everybody and not just ourselves? And we're viewed as selfish, or whatever those negative answers could be. So how do I overcome something that appears to be greater than me, being culture or the community, even though I am looking for some type of self actualization? So how do I overcome something like that culture?
Right, and that's a great question, and that's where I was going, when I mentioned about uh, my decision to be a doctor and,
Mm-hmm.
take the pre-medical test. It was, I think you need to evaluate. So first, I'll answer to your first question. If you are thinking about what to do, setting your goals, and it's never too late to set your goals,
Mm-hmm.
because as I mentioned, in my life, my first goal was not created by me. It was created by societal pressures, by parents, by by knowing, or by what society is telling me what profession brings money. So
Mm-hmm.
back in those days, there were two professions, engineering and medicine, that almost everyone was pursuing. That's
Mm-hmm.
because people told them this is where money lies, and this is what is good for you, this is what is good for the community.
Mm-hmm.
So but then what happens eventually, if you go in a profession which you don't like, if I mean, if you don't set your goals, and I always tell my students, you need to set your goals not on the basis of what society asks you to,
Mm-hmm.
but on the basis of what unique experiences do you want to have in your life, what do you want to do in your life. And by doing, it doesn't mean that doing, practicing medicine or being an engineer. It's, say, people, they want to, so some people tell me they want to travel the world with their kids, they want to give them unique experiences,
Mm-hmm.
they want to do something good for society. or they want to just you know be happy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and keep others happy around them. So to your question around bigger goods and what society wants you to do, and how it's a noble goal,
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you that anything that you do well
Mm-hmm.
will do well for the society, right? So if you're stuck in a career which you are not passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
and you do not do well in that career, then you are not contributing anything to the society, right?
Mm.
So let's talk about three levels, right? So one is your contribution monetarily to the society. So some people, they do charity, and
Mm-hmm.
they do not really have time to do anything else. Or even, say if you have established a business, you're giving others, others are depending on you for your livelihoods. You're providing jobs. You're keeping the economy up.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not doing well, you are not helping the society from an economy perspective, from providing jobs perspective,
Mm-hmm.
because you are struggling, right? I mean, you are not doing well. Think about a businessman, even if they're not philanthropic,
Mm-hmm.
but if they have a multi-million dollar company that's keeping the economy afloat, that's providing employment to so many people, whether or not they are philanthropic, that just by doing that,
Mm-hmm.
they are benefiting society. I'm not saying that they should not be philanthropic, or I mean, that's not up to me to decide.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying that even by having a profitable company, they are doing good in society, because that's helping our economy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the second part, if you are doing what you were passionate about doing, what you were set out to do, then you will do good. And whatever business you are in, you are contributing to the society from that monetary perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
From that economy perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And one very small thing which we always miss when we talk about doing good for people and so on is, good happens at many levels,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Even, by spreading joy in the world, even by uplifting somebody, even by, talking to somebody and giving them an answer to their question, or maybe you're helping them, guiding them, talking to a homeless guy and trying to figure out what they do, and trying to help them by trying to provide jobs. So every small little things, even if you smile at somebody, so when we started back in the green room, you smiled at me, and
Mm-hmm.
you know from that very moment, the tone of this interview was set,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Right.
I felt happy, you felt happy, we had some small talks, and
Mm-hmm.
we got to know each other. So every small things you do, and now I am talking to your audience,
Mm-hmm.
and tomorrow they may even decide to follow me, or they may decide to sign up with me. So you don't know what good will happen
Right.
after once, small thing. It's a ripple effect,
Right. It
right?
is.
So what I'm trying to say is that if you are not doing what you're passionate about, if you are miserable in your job, you know uh, if you are unhappy, then
Mm-hmm.
you are making others unhappy,
Right. Right.
right? I mean, and as I mentioned, and this is actually, the mantra of my brand, String Code, as well.
Mm.
String Code, the name itself means that we are all connected and we all have effect on each other.
Mm-hmm.
We are connected to our genetics by string. We are connected to each other. The entire world is connected.
Right.
So basically, if we are, I'm a huge, I started with my women's wear brand because I really feel that what we can wear can give us confidence, can make us feel comfortable in our skin.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have confidence, the next step that we take, it it basically creates ripple effect, as I
Right.
was mentioning. So when I'm feeling beautiful, confident from my inner self, the next step that I'm going to take, I'm going to enter that conference room and all heads turn at me. So the next presentation I'm going to give, I'm going to nail it,
Mm-hmm.
because you are confident, you feel powerful. So what I'm trying to say is, if you are happy, if you are doing what you were really wanted to do, you are not only helping economy, helping people, with their jobs and the money,
Hmm.
but you're also a happy person, which has a ripple effect and which makes the entire world happy. So no, you are absolutely contributing. And even if you're not working, by the way, even if you decide to take a back step and you are not
Hmm.
working, even then, with just being happy and with what you are doing in your everyday life, you're
Hmm.
absolutely having a positive impact in the society. So your
Hmm.
impact does not depend on whether you bring money or not, just so you know.
Wow, Nina, I appreciate you coming on. So let me ask this last question. If I'm not happy and I'm not sure where I want to go, but I need to talk to someone, right? Nina, where can someone reach out and talk to you? So that way they can figure out where they want to go and how to be happy and break this 9 to 5 grind. How can they reach out?
Yeah, so best way, I think Morris has some links posted in the notes, but best way to reach out is social media. Go to my LinkedIn profile. So it's my first name and last name, Neena Pandey. Send me a connection request. Go to my Facebook, Instagram profile. On Facebook and Instagram, I am Neena Pandey.
Mm-hmm.
So after creating three companies, yes, I mean, for the longest time, I was in Silicon Valley. I was a marketing executive, and then I created my first education company, which was, America's fastest growing franchise in year one.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I created my home decor company, Indie Roots, which had its first $1 million mark in under 2 years with no paid ads.
Mm-hmm.
And then I created Stringco, which we just launched in 2024, and it's already creating waves in the fashion world. So my next, and as I was talking to Maurice before this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very passionate about helping people who are in my shoes, like how I
Right.
was, 8 years ago. So I am now, opening up my doors. I'm a business coach. I really
Mm-hmm.
want to help people get out of their 9 to 5 grind and take that first step. So I would love for us to connect, even if you don't sign me up, or you don't really need to be my customer.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to be in each other's feet. I want to
Right.
know how you're doing. I want you to know how I am doing. I want to be able to encourage you to take the first step. And please reach out to me. My coaching website is buildscalesustain.com slash it's just, yeah, you can just go buildscalesustain.com. And to the listeners of this podcast, I will, give you a free half-hour session.
Nice.
So just, mention that you are coming from this podcast, and I would love to talk to you. And, I wish you all the best.
Nina, thank you very much. Of course, y'all, everything that Nina just mentioned will be in the show notes, the businesses, the LinkedIn, all that stuff. So please make sure that you go into the show notes and you'll be able to click on those links. But, Nina, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really,
So
really appreciate you.
it was my pleasure, and thank you very much. I wish you and your listeners all the best. Thank you for having me. It's been a true pleasure.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. Now, but Nina, before I let you go all the way, I got to ask you my world famous question that I ask everybody, right? So, and again, it's no parameters. It's however you
Mhm.
answer, right?
Mhm.
Is my would you rather question. Nina, would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
Hmm. That's a great question.
Wow.
I would rather choose a fork in the road
Okay. And why a fork?
because there is an option. I have a choice,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in the life, it's all about choices. It's all about you being at a, so for example, 8 years back, I had a fork in the road. So I could either pursue my career and become, go up in the executive chain,
Mm-hmm.
or I could pursue my passion, which is entrepreneurship. I had a choice. And how you are a sum total of the choices that you make in your lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and you may make a wrong choice, but then you will learn, as I mentioned, and you get up and you pivot, and the next choice you make may, lead you to something great, amazing. But it's always, it's always great to have choice in your life, and
Right.
it's always great to know what you're doing and how well you are making use of that choice.
Wow, Neena, I thank you very much for playing along with the Would You Rather question. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And that was an amazing question, though. I mean, that really made me think. So, yeah, it's amazing. I loved answering that question, and I love these on the spot questions, which kind of make me think.
Right, right. No, that's cool. So, but again, thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much, Morris.
You-
My pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for listening to the show today. And as always, I will talk to you a little later. Continue to tune in.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Chisholm Group LLC and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?